Mm. Hi, beautiful woman. Welcome. And please, can I ask you to turn your videos on so I can see your beautiful faces, so that I can see who I'm sharing this work with? Mm. Mm. Hello, hello. Welcome. Beautiful to have you in the space. Thank you for arriving. As we gather to talk about the pelvis. So, first, I think we just take a moment to really land into our bodies from, yeah, what feels like quite a busy day. Closing down your eyes and just taking this time for yourself. You're here now. There's nothing else to do. You can just relax into your body and rest into your breath. And you don't have to hold your spine up straight. You can also relax into the spine, a natural curve. Relax into your belly. Let your breath fill the belly. Hmm. And as you sigh out, really bring that sound, that humming through the throat, activating vagal nerve, massaging your parasympathetic nervous system, allowing you to descend into the fullness of your density. Hmm. And drawing out your breath. And see if you can notice the space between inhales and exhales. Noticing that bridge between opening and emptying. And relax your face. Really dropping into the texture of holding, how your face holds tension. Maybe there's a mask. As your face holding the day, noticing in between the brow, often the brow holds subtle contraction, and just try layer by layer to release the brow. Let it relax and soften. And notice then how your entire face just drops. Hmm. And taking this time to descend into your pelvic throne, this seat, the root body, and just to notice, how is she seated? How is she placed in this moment? Maybe you leaning into your sacrum and sitting on your coccyx. Maybe you're a bit tilted anteriorly and you're sitting on your perineum. And just to feel the way you're seated in your pelvis, does it feel right for you? Does it feel comfortable? And does it feel like your pelvis is holding you, supporting the spine? And if not, how can you adjust? Maybe there's some movements you want to bring into the root body, your spine, maybe a little stretch. Ah. And I'd like you to relax your tongue all the way down into your throat. And maybe your tongue even hangs out the mouth just a little like a cat's. And through this softening of the tongue, notice what happens to the mind. When the tongue separates from the palate, the mind begins to dissolve. And the jaw can drop open. And now we can descend even further into the pelvis. And see if you can breathe with your belly, your womb belly. If you find that the breath is restricted there, then sit more on your perineum and your vulva. Tilt your pelvis until your belly can find breath and find spaciousness. And relax. And as you're finding this sweet alignment with your pelvis this evening, I'd like you to feel into why you're here, brought you here. Maybe curiosity, maybe you're on the edge of deciding whether you'd like to join the full program. Maybe you just needed a practice this evening to be held. So bringing all of that into the space, bringing all of you into the space. and to find yourself in stillness. Hmm. And slowly coming back, meeting me back here, opening the eyes. If your videos have turned off, you can turn them back on. We're not journeying just yet. This is just a little intro into, yeah, the somatic experience of what's happening in the body right now, landing into pelvis, landing into breath. Thank you, sisters, for joining me this evening for this masterclass. Some familiar faces. I know a lot of people are going to be receiving the recording. They couldn't make this evening. And yeah, blessings to the sisters that are about to watch this as well, that are not with us live this evening. Thank you. The Pelvic Puja has been an incredible movement of creation the last couple of months. This has taken over my life completely. And if you follow me on social media, you know that I speak a lot into the pelvis of a woman. For me, this is the center. This is the seat of women. And I work a lot with women. I work with all bodies, but the work with women is special and different. It's a different texture than working with other genders. And the how this puja came into creation, how it was birthed was I've created a beautiful offering called pelvic nourishment. And for those who have not worked with me before, this is a culmination of so many different lineages and modalities that I've studied, bringing in the traditional tantric lineages of Kaula Tantra and Shaiva Tantra, which are two different pathways of traditional tantras. I've studied a little bit, just a tiny bit of Neo. Of course, Neo Tantra is, it's so alive in the West, it's hard not to dip the toes in there. So sometimes it comes into the work, but it's not everything that I teach. My focus is more traditional. And then of course the womb religion and or cosmology. Some people call it cosmology, which is the teaching around the feminine way. The goddess was the beginning, the goddess was the end, and she was worshipped. And the womb was this place of eternal life and eternal death. And it's the study around the essence of reality being birthed through the celestial womb. And then the patriarchy evolved, and how this womb religion and Tantra, which is very similar in its essence, became this underground teaching, but it was never lost. And this is something that I've learned in this religious study, is that these teachings were never lost. They were still practiced. The goddess and the womb was still worshipped. And so this pelvic nourishment work has been birthed from these different lineages. And actually, what inspired the pelvic nourishment offering was my very own blood sister, seeing how much pain her pelvis has been in, and how she will not allow me to place my hands on her body yet. And just how I was so frustrated. I just wanted to help and touch my sister and really be with her body. And I've never shared this with anyone, so it's a very vulnerable sharing for me. And I had to place this frustration into another path because I couldn't not do anything with these hands and all the wisdom that I've received from amazing, incredible teachers. And so this is how this pelvic nourishment was birthed, from this place of pain and frustration and anger and desire, and seeing how many women go through the same thing, how we have been misguided by the medical industry, how the majority of us have gone onto birth control from a very young age for the wrong reasons, how our mothers did not initiate us sexually or into our monarchy, and because they were not initiated either, so this wisdom was not carried down. How our mothers and grandmothers perhaps didn't have the opportunities or the access to this kind of wisdom and knowledge. And within our culture, I have seen far too many diseased wombs, out of place wombs, wombs that are constantly in pain, menstrual cycles that are totally irregular and imbalanced, and women who are completely severed from the essence of who they are, which is womb space. This is the center of woman. And so from this pelvic nourishment came the puja. And it's a different body of work because the nourishment work is body work from a practitioner, being me. This is, I'm doing the tending, the de-armoring, the touch work, the massage, the realignment, the breath, guiding you into this place. But what is equally as important as receiving this work from another woman is to be able to access this with our own hands, to be able to place my hands on my body and give myself what I need through my touch and my intention alone. This is so important. And I think when these two bodies of work come together, this is when womb spaces and pelvic tissues and the fascial system in the pelvis will become restored and it will return to balance. And so I really feel that this work is a necessity. I don't think it's a luxury. I feel that when every single womb is in balance and in harmony, then it may become a luxury. But until then, every single woman needs this type of work, whether it's restoring women to woman care, which I think is phenomenal, for another woman to be able to hold your yoni, massage your labia, enter into the yoni, de-armor, allow you to come back into the cervical gateway through touch, through breath. This is special. And what is equally special is for you to enter that place on your own. So this is what the puja is about. And in Tantra, puja means practice of worship. It's a devotional practice of worship. And traditionally, how this is actually practiced is different lineages will have different methods. But what I've studied so far, and I think there's still so much more to learn, is the yoni is either placed as a structure or a statue, or there'll be, for example, a flower symbolizing the yoni. And the yoni is the reflection of the goddess, right? So nature, reality, existence. And they would place their prayers into this symbol and pray with it, dance with it, place menstrual blood, milk, semen even onto this symbol and send their prayers into this yoni. And this was the puja. This was the practice of worship. In other lineages, it is practiced with the yoni, a woman's body, where Male-bodied devotees would come and bow to the yoni and pray to this wisdom, this mystery, this unfathomable, vast mystery that is in between women's legs. She speaks from between her legs. This is power. And so for me to take this and share it with women and say, come, women, let's bow to this wisdom. Let's spread our legs and tend to the tissues, to the sacred fluids with our own hands. Let's remember the wisdom there. Let's come back into harmony and balance and love, respect. So this reverence is really the texture of pelvic puja. And what I mean by this is that, yes, it's beautiful to touch our bodies and feel pleasure, or to touch with the intention of wanting to experience pleasure. But for this particular work, I'm inviting women to touch in a way that is without any agenda, which means that the way that I touch is such a primal experience, allowing my body to become invoked, catalyzing whatever is hiding inside my tissues, whether it be memory, emotion, pain, physical sensation of pain. And using my breath, so this is a very somatic part of the journey, is using the breath and using my sound, my voice, engaging with the movement of expression. And this is how we become de-armored, because I feel that our pelvic thrones are very armored. It's the holding, right? It's the seat of woman. And because of this, the way that the physiology of pelvis is structured, there's a lot of density there. And even in Tantra, we say that the mystery resides in the density. We have to be in the body to experience mystery, to experience consciousness and existence. And so, because of this holding, what begins to happen if we're not processing things and resolving our traumas is that the pelvis holds onto everything. And I think this is no, I know this is a continuous journey. It's not something that is done and it's just finished. There is always something to be processed. There is always something to be resolved. And so this is why I've placed my absolute whole heart and my whole womb into the pelvic space. I'm so devoted to women's bodies. I'm so devoted to the yoni, the cervix, intravaginal canal, the gateways there, the multi-dimensional portals that reside there when we enter with our breath and our sound, womb space, our pelvic bones, the fluids of our cervix, female ejaculation, our menstruation. Oh, there's so much. It's just a wonderment to be in a woman's body. So, yeah, I would like to open the space for question. If anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask me about the work, the practice, the teachings, you're welcome to give voice, or you can just drop it in the chats. And as we carry on, if there's something that arrives, you can just drop it in the chat and I'll answer it after our practice. Mm, hmm. There's something that wants to be shared, but I don't have the words for it yet. So I feel we move into this delicious practice together. And if it wants to emerge afterwards, we'll find out. But for now, I think, yeah, find yourself in a safe space. Make sure you're not going to be interrupted for the next 30 minutes. You can turn your video off. Before you turn your video off, I want to make sure that the sound, the music is at a good level for everyone. It's probably ideal to use some earphones or headphones. And I'd like you to be able to hear my voice clearly over the sound. So just give me a little thumbs up if the sound is okay and my voice. If I need to maybe put the music up. Music a bit louder, okay. Does that feel good? Music is louder, voice is good, okay, good. Okay, I'm just seeing some questions come through. Denise, not understanding your question. When did it change from being this worshipped flower and do we clear for our ancestors too? I'm not understanding the first part of the question, but I can
So,
answer.
sorry, Saskia. So when did we become westernized, where women were just used, where we stopped thinking about how precious our yoni is
Hmm,
and
yeah,
how wonderful it is and beautiful it is, and we were just using it for instant pleasure and not
hmm,
knowing that it is so much more, that it's the seat
yeah.
of the soul.
Hmm. That's a beautiful question. Thank you for bringing that. Sure, it's a good question and a challenging one to answer. According to what I've studied around womb religion, is that these teachings already became lost around the time of Christ. So Mary Magdalene and Christ himself was these shamanic womb worshippers. And they would enter into these incredible journeys with earth and earth womb, human womb, celestial womb, celebrating, honoring, worshipping the absolute power. And the womb itself was seen as this, and is still seen now as this place of intense shamanic journey where people would, for example, now the way we can relate it to now is going to an ayahuasca ceremony or an iboga ceremony, taking these plants. This was a representation of descending into the celestial menstruation, going into this process of death and coming out as a rebirth. So we're really seeing this coming out again in our current culture around the plant medicines. But this is not new. This has been happening. We've done these medicines, we've done these journeys since the beginning of time, I would say. And it became lost around the time of Christ when religion became very male dominated, very linear. All these sacred texts around the yoni and the womb were excluded. And we can still see proof of this feminine wisdom stream within the Bible, but you really have to read in between the lines. And through my studies, I've read about some incredible people that have really tracked back to the time when womb religion was everywhere. It was the be all and end all. It was so sacred. People were really honoring the feminine women's bodies, the power of our genitals, the unfathomable mystery of womb. And so it was such a big religion that, or spiritual teaching, that the it was understood that the womb of woman was a symbol and a representation of how the cosmic womb really works. And it was such a living, embodied experience. And then the rise of patriarchy is what really fueled this dampening of women and their bodies. And I think we all understand a bit of that history and how that came about. So I'm not going to go too deeply into that. But that rising of patriarchy is what completely severed women from the power and the wisdom of their bodies and their yonis and their wombs. And it didn't help that women were fighting against women, which is understandable when a woman is so disconnected from her womb space that this is when the sister shadow begins to emerge. And so there's so much competition and betrayal. And yeah, it's quite a challenging question to answer in such a short time, but I hope that just gives a bit of an idea. It is the rising of patriarchy, and we're seeing it now come back. I feel that the stream of wisdom is really coming back. I think it's a time now where um, we're really becoming aware of the power and, yeah, the intelligence that resides in this body, in this feminine body. Will it clear for our ancestors too? Absolutely. Yeah. So I have a very beautiful, I did a very beautiful body of work recently. Last year, I studied with two incredible international teachers. I studied the Sister Shadow, which is this really big body of work around the mother wound and the sister wounds, and going into how our bodies, particularly our pelvises, our womb spaces, the tissues within the vulva and the canal, hold the thread of our lineage. And while I was working with these women, I could feel through my menstruation. This is why menstruation is called the red thread, because each time we bleed, we are reminded of the prayers that our ancestors have said before us. And we remember the lost opportunities. We remember the pain of our ancestors, of our mothers, of our grandmothers. We can still feel that. We remember the joy, right? So we feel this very directly when we're bleeding. This is the gift of menstruation, and this is why for some women it can be unbearably painful, especially if they haven't met the shadow of their relationship with mother. So this work took me really deep into my own relationship with my mother, and it was really intense, really big work. And it's like digging my fingers into the dirty mud and tracking back into my matrilineal blueprint and remembering that through my womb space, by me doing this work, by me honoring what is coming up through this chalice, I am also answering the prayers of my ancestors. And so that's a big, big work. It doesn't just affect us, if we are a woman of embodied wombs, of balanced wombs, of wombs that are correct in posture, and it's not just a physical, physiological posturing, it's the posturing of your being. And if we are really seated at the center of our wombs and moving from this wisdom, it doesn't just affect you alone, it permeates into the rest of your life, it permeates into all relationships. And so, even though it's just a few of you here in this call right now, it's not just a few of you, it's all of your relationships, it's all of your mothers and your grandmothers and the women around you. This work is big. So, for someone at the very beginning of their journey, is there a resource you recommend? Hmm. Yeah, I would say come for session. And, even the pelvic puja that's starting on Monday, this for me is, it's not an advanced work, it's not a beginner's work, there's no label to this thread. It's the beauty of this work is that it meets you where you are. Right? We're working with the direct experience of your physiology. And so you will access what you need to access through the work. I wouldn't recommend reading any materials until your body has opened to a certain level, especially within the tantric space, because what tends to happen is that we begin to intellectualize the teachings instead of becoming embodied in them. My teacher didn't allow me to read texts for 4 years. And it's a good thing too, because when I finally opened Bhairava Tantra, I barely understood a single thing, even though I'd been practicing Tantra for a few years already. And so there's a certain level of this body needs to open and expand, it needs to stretch itself, it needs to become available to the essence of reality, it needs to channel consciousness so that when we're opening these textbooks, we remember. It's not something we can understand. It's like, oh wow, with my cells, I remember this as truth. So I hope that answers your question, Jess. Okay. Thank you for the question, sister. And as I'm going into this, I wanted to say that what is so unique about pelvic puja is that I'm bridging everything that I know about women's anatomy and physiology. And I'm talking about demystifying the female genitalia. I just recently studied this with one of my teachers, and it's absolutely incredible because when I studied anatomy about 11 years ago, there was nothing like I've just studied in those textbooks about female genitalia. So there's a lot that I want to share with women about, yeah, just how the physiology works. For some people, they have no idea that they have a prostate. They have no idea where their delicious yoni juices come from. Um, they have no idea that their cervix can have orgasm. And so I'm bridging this physiology of women with mystery because, as I just said, the tantras talk about how the mystery resides in the density being matter, right? The body. And so without this body, we can't perceive reality. It's through the body that we enter the heart of mystery. Okay, sisters, let's move into our juicy practice. The only thing that I think you'll need for tonight is a bit of oil. You don't need a lot, just a bit of oil to use on your fingers and use on your yoni, just to make that delicious connection. Make sure your body and your pelvis is warm throughout the practice. And so you can even lay down in bed. You don't have to sit up. So really making your body comfortable. Lay down, remain seated, leaning against something, closing down your eyes. Ah. And just bringing in all the words that we've shared in this practice this evening, this conversation between women, and to feel what the texture of approaching your body without any agenda feels like to you. Even if you have no idea how to go about this, it's okay, let it go. What would it feel like in your bones to touch your body without any intention? There's no goal. Don't expect anything from your physiological response. We are not touching our bodies to sexualize. Our bodies are not objects. You are not an object of desire. However, there is desire moving you. And wherever you are and however you're holding your body, I invite you to drop now into deep relaxation, noticing where you're holding, where is there tension, where can you let go and find more space. And if you find that your mind is busy or activated at any point, breathe. As you inhale, find that your mind opens. And as you breathe out, let the mind become empty. And so moving with this dance of opening and emptying. And to notice where else in the body there's an opening and an emptying. Breathing down into your pelvis. And to sense how much power just that word holds. Pelvis, pelvic. And the root of your body, the roots of your ancestral lineage. The root of pain, the root of bliss. She is the beginning and the end. She is the bridge between death and rebirth. And so slowly, if you haven't already, begin to unveil your body, removing clothing, and make it sweet and slow, make it romantic. As you're releasing these layers and putting things down, what are you emotionally or energetically removing from your body? And let it be that simple. And so just laying there and feeling your naked, bare body, receiving her warmth, her scent. So taking some of your oil as you gently rub it in between your hands. And this whole practice is so slow. All of our work together is inviting women back into the way of yin, to really slow down. And placing these oiled hands on the bones of your pelvis. and to feel them really hold the seat of your being. And to make contact with the strength and the power and the wisdom of these bones. And run your hands over your pelvis. And so there's no intention. Your hands move where they want to move. Let them go. Moving so that you massage the hands along the body of the goddess. Or is the goddess caressing you? Who knows? Who cares? And so, feeling how ancient these bones are, these ancient things that hold so many stories. Don't forget your breath. Each time you meet a place that feels like too much, perhaps your mind becomes activated. I want you to breathe and sound. So, what is the sound of these bones? What is their voice? And slowly gliding your hands to the inside of your thighs, that soft, velvety skin there. Until you come to meet your yoni, and perhaps it's just about placing a hand or both hands, cupping and holding the guardian of your pelvis, the vulva. And so to feel that for yourself, this guardianship of your womb space. And if you need to take more oil, and begin to spiral your fingers along the mons pubis. And the mons pubis is this cushiony, tissuey part of the vulva, which is just above the clitoris. the mound of Venus. I love working with this place because there's so much tissue within this one area. And so when we're spiraling the massage, you're really beginning to invite more blood to enter into the space so that the tissue can rehydrate the vulva. The mons pubis is the mother fascia. And so making that connection to mother. And for some women, this can be quite a vulnerable, tender meditation. And so again, inviting that breath and that sound. Ah. And just to feel what's there. Feel what arises in this moment. This mother fascia rehydrating, liquefying, and giving more fluidity into the tissues of the labia. And so slowly moving your touch down, meeting the outer labia. And for the women that are not familiar with this term, these tissues are the outer lips of the vulva. And so just noticing how this tissue feels between your fingers. Maybe you've never had the opportunity to touch your yoni like this. Just to feel and really bringing in your breath, bringing in your sound. And begin to notice how upon the lips of these labias, there are often words that have been left unspoken. And so maybe there's something that wishes to be spoken in this moment, and then express it out in the room. Say the words. What are these labias wanting to say? So circulating your touch, spiraling your fingers along the walls of these labias. See what it feels like to stretch and pull the skin sideways, outwards, inwards, slowly. If you feel yourself rushing, slow it down. Take your time. Sighing out your breath. And with that sigh, releasing something that's been stuck there for a while. Maybe there's also nothing. Maybe you're feeling and it's just about feeling the sensation, the actual experience of fingers to labia, and that's enough. As we're moving into a non-intentional space, we must also become aware of not wanting to overly release things, to go into something so we can have a release. No, it's an unfolding. And so let this rose of yours unfold. Let it unfurl from within, moving your fingers down into the inner labia. And caressing, spiraling your fingers, and communing with these velvety, tender tissues, noticing how different they feel. And again, there may be some unspoken words upon the lips of these labias, unanswered prayers. And so using your voice to sound what is there. stretching and pulling these labias. Let them feel what it feels like to enter this yoga, this yoking, this union with your touch, but also to stretch out and let them breathe. Mm. And taking one of your fingers and placing it just at the entrance, at the gateway of your yoni. And so we're not entering this evening, but just to place the finger, rest it at this doorway and feel the brimming, electrifying heat, the energy permeating from within your body, meeting your touch. Maybe for you this evening, there's a bit of sensitivity just at the entrance there. And if there is, you can put a bit of pressure with your finger pressing down and to breathe with that sensation. Ah. Hmm. Hands over the whole vulva, dancing your hands, inner thighs, labias, clitoris, the pelvic bones. Then laying your hands to come to rest on your womb and breathing with this womb belly. Mm. And taking deep breaths into your belly and really feeling the texture of your vulva right now, the texture of your pelvis, noticing what is the voice, what is the expression that's bubbling up. What are the sensations that are most alive right now? Maybe this has invoked a deeper work. Maybe it's allowed you to find space and freedom. Mm. Inviting you to be with this stillness just for a moment longer. To rest inside your pelvis. Hmm. Breathing deeply into the heart of you, the seat of you, the root of you. And as you're all starting to come round very slowly back into the space, I wanted to share what was coming up before we entered the practice. And it was around that really important question about how this became so lost to us. And I remembered a seed, something I studied quite recently, that when the male dominated masculine dominated religion started to take rise in the form of patriarchy, they became so terrified of being damned to hell through the feminine ways, the womb ways, because of these shamanic experiences of journeying into the dark, velvety part of the psyche. You know, when we journey shamanically, whether it's through our menstruation or through plants or through, yeah, just oracle, visionary experience, what begins to happen, or even through these pujas, what begins to happen is that we are experiencing death and rebirth. And the way these male religions saw this is that they were so terrified of going into that dark psyche experience and never coming out of it because it is such a journey. We can get lost in the bardo. And so it was more just about elevating instead of descending, which is the womb, the apana, the menstruation, is to ascend. And so the the God is now the Godhead. It's a he, he's in the clouds, he's in the heavens. Even buildings and architecture changed from ceremonies being done in tombs, womb tombs. They built pyramids which reached to the skies, right? So we can even see this in architecture. And I believe this is how the feminine wisdom became lost. There was terror, there was so much fear of going into the pain body. And I see this all the time with women that I work with. When we have pain in the pelvis, whether it's the womb, the yoni, the cervix, anything that I mentioned before, this out of alignment, this displacement, this disharmony, the severance. Generally, what I see is the unfathomable fear to really enter the dark places within the psyche, because that is what it's going to take to come back into harmony. This is the truth. We have to descend into the body, we have to descend into the dark, velvety realms of the eternal pelvis and the womb space in order to journey to meet more of the self and to become the self. And so this journey is not about transmuting and transcending and becoming a better version of. I hear in our current era so much talk around upgrading, and I promise you, I hate it so much. I don't hate a lot of things, but I cannot stand that narrative because what that is saying is that I'm not good enough as I am. And it's taking us away from descending into the womb and understanding that it's a becoming, it's an unfolding and an unraveling into me. So there is no better, there is no upgrading. It's a returning to the heart of the mystery. And the same way a rose unfurls, it's like this budding and this opening. The same way the yoni becomes aroused, she becomes erect, right? Her tissues fold outwards and she blooms. And so, yeah, this practice of puja, of pelvic puja, is about returning to this primal wisdom of becoming. And so that's the seed I'm going to leave with you this evening. I want to thank you all so much for joining. It was such an honor to be in the space with you. Thank you, sisters. Thank you, women. A lot of, well, a few of you that I know and some that I don't. I would love to invite you into the intensive. We start on Monday. And it's a big work and it does require a full body yes. You will also be able to find this recording online, and so you can enter this practice at any time if you feel you need some support in holding. Thank you, sisters. Blessings. Thank you. Mm.